All right, today we are diving deep into one of history's most wild and cryptic texts. We're talking about a prophecy from the book of Daniel, chapter 8. And trust me, this thing is packed with clashing empires, a super arrogant king, and a mysterious timeline that has had people scratching their heads for centuries. So, what is it all about? Well, let's get into it.
So, let's start with this. What if a dream, a vision someone had over 2,500 years ago, wasn't just some, bad pizza-induced nightmare? What if it was actually a roadmap for the future, a prediction of the rise and fall of massive empires? Yeah, that's the puzzle we're tackling today.
Okay, so picture this. It's around 550 BC, and the prophet Daniel has this absolutely epic, almost psychedelic vision. First, there's this powerful ram with two big horns, and it's just charging, totally unstoppable. Or so it seems. Because then, out of the west, comes this goat, and it's flying. It's moving so fast, its feet don't even touch the ground. It's got this one huge horn, and bam! It just smashes into the ram and shatters it to pieces. I mean, what a wild and violent image, right? You gotta wonder, what on earth does that mean?
Now, here's the cool part. We don't actually have to guess what all this means. The vision itself comes with a decoder ring, basically. The angel Gabriel shows up to break it all down for Daniel, and for us. It's like having the answer key right in the text.
So first up, the ram. Gabriel is super clear about this. He says, the ram with the two horns, that's the kingdom of the Medes and the Persians. And you know that little detail about the second horn growing up longer? That's not just random, it's historically spot on, because Persia eventually became the bigger, more powerful partner in that Medo-Persian alliance. Pretty amazing detail.
Okay, so what about the flying goat? Well, the angel says that's the kingdom of Greece just tearing in from the west. And that single giant horn on its head, that's its first king. I mean, come on, that is an incredible parallel to the rise of Alexander the Great. He just exploded onto the scene and conquered the entire Persian Empire with mind-blowing speed. But wait, the prophecy's not done yet. It says the great horn gets broken right at the peak of its power. And if you know your history, that's exactly what happened. Alexander the Great dies unexpectedly in 323 BC. And then, just like the vision said, 4 new horns pop up in its place. These represent the 4 kingdoms that his generals literally carved out from his huge empire. And those 4 horns map directly to 4 historical kingdoms, each run by one of Alexander's top generals. You've got Ptolemy in Egypt, Seleucus in Syria, Lysimachus in Asia Minor, and Cassander in Macedonia. Now I want you to keep your eye on that second one, the Seleucid kingdom in Syria, because that's where our main villain is about to enter the stage. You see, the vision says that out of one of those 4 horns, a little horn is going to grow. And don't let the name fool you. This isn't just some minor king. This guy represents a whole new level of arrogance, a whole new kind of rebellion. The prophecy really zooms in on him, giving us a very specific, kind of terrifying profile. And the profile we get is, well, it's chilling. Get this, this king is going to puff himself up so much he claims to be equal with God. He's going to go right for the heart of Jewish worship and stop the daily sacrifices at the temple in Jerusalem. He's going to desecrate the holy sanctuary itself. And for a while, it looks like he's winning. He throws truth to the ground and just prospers. It's a dark picture.
This is a really important shift in the story. We're not just talking about politics or wars between nations anymore. As the source material puts it so well, the conflict is now a trial of strength between a man and God himself. The stakes just went from earthly to cosmic. So the big question is, who is this little horn? Well, the source points the finger at a very specific historical person, Antiochus IV Epiphanes. He was a king from that Seleucid dynasty we mentioned, the one in Syria. And if you look at what he did, which is recorded in history books, his actions are an almost perfect and pretty chilling match for that prophetic profile. Okay, so this all leads us to the climax of the prophecy. In the vision, Daniel overhears someone ask the question on everyone's mind. How long? How long is this awful desecration gonna last? And the answer he gets is a very, very specific number, and it's one that has sparked a ton of debate. The number is 2,300. The voice says it'll last for 2,300 evenings and mornings, and then the sanctuary will be restored. Okay, so what does that even mean, evenings and mornings? Is that 2,300 literal days? And the million-dollar question, when does that prophetic clock even start ticking? Well, this is where the source connects all the dots. It maps this timeline directly onto the life and times of Antiochus. The argument is that the 2,300-day countdown started in 169 BC. That's when Antiochus first rolled into Jerusalem, robbed the temple, and killed a lot of people. The clock stopped in 163 BC when Antiochus died. And get this, he didn't die in some glorious battle. He died from a sickness, broken without human agency, just like the prophecy foretold. So here's the kicker. Does the math actually work? Well, according to the source's calculation, if you look at the time from his first attack in early 169 BC to his death around the middle of 163 BC, that's about 6 years and 4 months. And if you convert that into days, you land right around, you guessed it, 2,300 literal days. It fits. Okay, now it's really important to say that this isn't the only interpretation out there, not by a long shot. The source we're looking at actually engages directly with another major view, one held by the Seventh-Day Adventist Church, and their take on all of this is completely different. And this table here does a great job of showing just how different the two views are. So for the little horn, our source says it's Antiochus, the Greek king. The Adventist view says it's a symbol for the Roman Catholic Church. That also means the origin story shifts from the Greek Empire to the later Roman Empire. But the biggest difference is the 2,300 days. Instead of literal days, they're seen as prophetic years, creating a massive timeline stretching from 456 BC all the way to 1844 AD. So how does our source respond to this alternative view? Well, it goes right back to the text. It makes 2 key points. First, it says, look, Daniel 8 is super explicit that the little horn comes from the goat, and the prophecy itself identifies the goat as the Greek Empire, not Rome. The second point is that connecting this prophecy in Daniel 8 to a different one in Daniel 9 to get that 1844 date, well, the source argues that's a mistake because they're presented as 2 separate, unrelated visions. Okay, let's just pan out for a second. We can get really deep in the weeds with the historical debates and the math, right? But what's the big picture point of a prophecy like this? Is it just a history quiz written in advance? Is it only about predicting the future? Well, according to our source, the answer is a hard no, and this quote really gets to the heart of it. It says, the point wasn't the future as such. The real focus was the vindication of God's sovereignty. In other words, it's about showing that even when some tyrant is on a rampage and it looks like he's winning, God has drawn a line in the sand. There's a limit, and God's ultimate purpose is what will stand in the end. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on. If the true purpose of a prophecy isn't just to be a crystal ball and predict the future, but to declare who's ultimately in charge, how does that change how you look at history, or even your own life? It suggests that behind all the chaos and the rise and fall of human power, there's a bigger declaration being made, a declaration of ultimate authority and a promise that, in the end, justice will be done.